Donald Trump is hosting the first White House Crypto Summit, bringing together founders, policymakers and investors. Experts are expecting to see a move towards pro-crypto policies from the Trump administration. Ahead of the gathering, the US president signed an executive order establishing a strategic Bitcoin reserve and a digital asset stockpile. Now, if those terms went right over your head, don't worry. Think of it like a Fort Knox for cryptocurrencies. And it's quite the turnaround for someone who once described cryptocurrencies as a scam and said they were based on thin air. Yes, the president used to be a crypto-sceptic. Since then, though, he's undergone a crypto conversion. In an address at the Bitcoin 2024 conference, he declared he was going all in on digital currencies. He said the US will be the crypto capital of the planet and the Bitcoin superpower of the world, and we'll get it done. So far, the crypto industry has been getting everything it wanted under Trump 2.0. Hostile regulators, who investors say just didn't get it, have been thrown out. But the biggest problem could be the president himself. The price of Bitcoin peaked in January with a pro-crypto president in the White House. But the enthusiasm quickly faded. The currency suffered its worst trading month in 2 years, as the Trump's economic policies began to take shape. And that hasn't gone down well with the Bitcoin bros. Natalie Brunell is a Bitcoin educator and author of the upcoming book, Bitcoin is for Everyone. She joins us from St. Louis in the US state of Missouri. Welcome to DW. How would this crypto reserve actually work?
Well, thank you so much for having me. You know, the average person may not realize just how monumental establishing the strategic Bitcoin reserve is, because this is a signal really to the world from the United States that Bitcoin is not just here to stay, but it is an important strategic neutral asset that we have to acquire. It is the apex global property. It is a superior global capital, and it's neutral and apolitical. So both sides of the aisle can really get behind this. And the way it's going to work is we're really just going to classify the Bitcoin that the government currently has from confiscation and civil forfeiture into this reserve and pledging not to sell any of it. And you know why I'm so excited is because in 1971, President Nixon closed the gold window and effectively shocked the entire world into the fiat standard, which was a world built on paper promises and endless debt. And this week, Trump opened the window to the Bitcoin standard, to conquering cyberspace, and to build a future on pristine capital. And America now has the largest Bitcoin reserve of all sovereigns, but I think there's going to be a race of nations to try to accumulate as much Bitcoin as they can.
So what's the point of holding so much of it if you're not going to spend it?
The point is capital. The only way we can grow is if we have capital to be able to invest in the future. Right now, everything is built on debt, and we have to keep issuing more and more debt only to achieve a smaller and smaller amount of real growth. And the real problem in our current financial system is inflation. We're constantly getting our currencies debased, and Bitcoin is immune to inflation, and it's the way for individuals, companies, and nations to save for the future.
It may be immune from inflation, but it is volatile. It's all over the place. So how does that help? Because when he made this announcement, the price of Bitcoin, when he made this announcement about the reserve yesterday, the price of Bitcoin dropped. When he was at President Trump's inauguration, it reached a high. It's all over the place. So how does that help?
You're absolutely right. The volatility in the short run is significant. However, it's only a $2 trillion market cap asset. It is competing with bonds, with equities, with real estate, which all represent hundreds of trillions of dollars worth of wealth. And it will slowly start to capture and eat into those other asset classes, and that will reduce the volatility. But if you look over the last decade, there is no other asset that has outperformed Bitcoin, and it has been a powerful tool for savings for whoever has owned it.
Right. So this is the US government, as I understand it, holding on to Bitcoin assets that it has seized rather than going out into the market and using taxpayer dollars to buy this volatile toy.
That's right. No taxpayers are on the hook for this, but the government will evaluate if it will be purchasing Bitcoin. It has decided that it will not be purchasing other digital assets that are in the stockpile, but it will evaluate ways to purchase potentially Bitcoin. And I think that this is inevitable. And I think that there are also very revenue neutral ways in order to potentially acquire Bitcoin. You can revalue the gold on the balance sheet, which isn't priced mark to market. You could say, hey, no capital gains tax if you pay federal taxes in Bitcoin. You could sell buildings that no one uses and acquire Bitcoin. There are ways that the government can, in the future, acquire Bitcoin without taxing.
So this reserve idea is on top of this White House crypto summit that's also happening. Last year, President Trump denounced crypto as a scam. So what do you think has brought about this change of heart?
I think he just studied it. There were so many passionate advocates out there educating not just President Trump, but lawmakers and policymakers across the board. And we are moving in the direction of a very clear regulatory framework and clear rules of the road for the entire industry. And that's what the summit today is really about. We've established that Bitcoin will be the bedrock. It is a true commodity, an asset with no issuer. And now we really need to better understand these other technologies, digital securities, utility tokens, stable coins. And there's a push to really move markets to the 21st century and tokenize things like stocks so that they can trade 24/7 the way Bitcoin does. So I think we're moving in that direction with a clear framework.
And you say you think the president changed his mind because he studied it. You don't think it has anything to do with the millions that were contributed to his election campaign by the Bitcoin industry?
People weren't just sending money, they were sending education. I can't even tell you how many people have gone to
but that education came with lots of zeros after it, didn't it?
Influence comes in many ways, but education is the only way that a president would embrace something like Bitcoin. If you don't understand an asset and think it's a scam, I do not think that you would put it in the country's reserve.
Not everyone's in the tech world is a fan of this move. Here's a post on X from Charles Edwards, who founded the Bitcoin-focused hedge fund Capriole Investments. He wrote, "This is the most underwhelming and disappointing outcome we could have expected for this week. No active buying means this is just a fancy title for Bitcoin holdings that already exist in the government. This is lipstick. This is a pig in lipstick." Natalie Brunell, he doesn't sound like a fan of the way this is being pitched to the American people, but you clearly are.
Well, I respectfully disagree because we are pledging not to sell the Bitcoin. And David Sachs, the crypto czar, has pointed out that the U.S. has already missed out on billions of dollars in appreciation because it has sold Bitcoin in the past. So now it's a pledge we will not sell. We're going to hold that Bitcoin. And I do think that in the future, we will be buying. And that announcement will come with much excitement. And I think it will move the price significantly. But at the time, they're evaluating everything and they're going forward with an audit of the current Bitcoin that the government has.
Donald Trump and his family and businesses have lots of holdings in Bitcoin and associated crypto assets. Do you see any problems for him in terms of a conflict of interest?
I don't, because I see Bitcoin as digital property. That would be like saying there's a conflict of interest in lawmakers or policymakers or presidents owning a home. I see Bitcoin as property in cyberspace. I don't see any conflict of interest, and everybody in the world, I believe, will own Bitcoin.
Let me just stop you there, because that's an interesting point you raise. But we have, you say this is just like owning a house, but if a congressman or woman was found to be influential in legislature that influence house prices, there would be a conflict of interest. Donald Trump is in a position to boost this industry, an industry in which he has invested millions. There is a clear conflict of interest.
Bitcoin is a commodity. If the president came out and said we should have oil, would that be a conflict of interest? If he said we should have homes, is that a conflict of interest?
I just
don't see where you're coming from, because it's not a security.
Fine, you don't understand the question. So we're absolutely clear. As far as you see it, there is no conflict of interest between the US president boosting cryptocurrencies and him and his family and businesses owning lots of this. You don't see a conflict of interest. That's just a yes or a no.
I do not see a conflict with owning Bitcoin. I do see a conflict with utility tokens and meme coins, which I have never supported, and I do not believe that the president should have issued.
Okay. So now that the United States is getting behind this, is now a good time to buy, or have I missed the boat?
No, it's still very early. It's a $2 trillion market cap that we believe is going to first 20 trillion to exceed gold's market cap. And then we believe it's going on to 100 trillion. We have about $900 trillion worth of money sloshing around in different asset classes. Again, think of bonds, equities, real estate. Bitcoin will continue to eat into all of those. And I do believe it's on its way to $100 trillion market cap with a 21 million Bitcoin finite supply.
Right, I'd better go and have a look at my piggy bank. For now, though, thank you so much for joining us. Natalie Brunell is a Bitcoin educator. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
Hello, Bitcoiners. Thank you very much. Hello. It's good to be with you. It's good to be with you.
From a crypto-sceptic to a crypto-millionaire, Donald Trump created a Trump meme coin, his own cryptocurrency, as well as collectible NFTs, non-fungible tokens, in the form of digital trading cards to raise money for his re-election campaign last year.
If crypto is going to define the future, I want to be mined, minted, and made in the USA. It's going to be. It's not going to be made anywhere else. And if Bitcoin is going to the moon, as we say, it's going to the moon, I want America to be the nation that leads the way. And that's what's going to happen.
Trump wants to become the first pro-crypto president. On March 2nd, he announced on Truth Social that he would install a presidential working group to create a crypto reserve that would include Bitcoin, Ethereum, and 3 other cryptocurrencies. He didn't mention how much money could be spent on that crypto reserve. But the announcement of the crypto reserve plan on March 2nd helped boost the value of Bitcoin. Interestingly, it reached an all-time high on January 20th, the day Donald Trump was sworn in as 47th President of the United States.
I, Donald John Trump, do solemnly swear.
The crypto industry was the largest corporate donor to political campaigns last year, outpacing traditional big spenders such as banks and oil, donating $245 million to pro-crypto candidates like Donald Trump.
And take a look at this with Steve Ehrlich, who's executive editor at Unchained. That's a trade publication focused on the crypto industry. Welcome to DW. So today's crypto summit follows yesterday's executive order creating this Bitcoin strategic reserve. So why has the president gone from a crypto critic to crypto enthusiast?
Honestly, I think it has a lot to do with money. The industry was a massive donor to his campaign to the tune of about $200 million. And that was he saw it as a key demographic to help him get over the threshold in certain key swing states. And he had to make them certain promises in order to get those funds. They included releasing a jailed former crypto entrepreneur that ran an illicit marketplace. He promised to fire Gary Gensler, the former chairman of the SEC, who has long been the industry's boogeyman. Gary Gensler actually resigned before Trump took office again. And as was shown in the video before I came on, in July, he promised to look into creating a strategic Bitcoin reserve akin to sort of the national oil reserve, a way of stockpiling Bitcoin to ostensibly help pay off the national debt or just protect American finances in a world where Bitcoin became increasingly popular. So for all of those reasons, plus he has some significant personal financial stakes in the industry. He's sold a series of NFTs that have minted him millions of dollars. He's launching a blockchain-based decentralized finance protocol called World Liberty Financial that has earned millions for him and his family as well. And then just days before the inauguration, he created a meme coin that most people actually thought was a joke until they realized that it was authentic, that the Financial Times actually, I think, reported this morning has netted, I think, him or his company $350 million. So
right.
There's many reasons why he has been, he has kind of changed his tune on crypto.
OK, we can boil that down, I think, to money and politics. Are there any sound financial or economic reasons for the United States to create this Bitcoin strategic reserve?
Yeah, it depends. I mean, you could look at Bitcoin has been the best performing asset in the entire world over the last 10 years or so. I think I saw a statistic that anyone that has held Bitcoin for at least 4 years has never lost money. That said, I think it's an entirely different question to ask whether or not we should be spending taxpayer dollars on an asset that has extremely high volatility. Bitcoin has dropped on multiple occasions more than 60 or 70%. And for a government that's supposed to have somewhat stable finances, maybe that's not what you want to do. With this executive order, they tried to kind of thread the needle by saying that the US government, which currently owns about 200,000 Bitcoin worth, I think, a shade under $17 billion or so. There's not an actual exact amount that they have seized through actions against the listed actors in the past. They're just going to hold on to that for now. So they're not going to have to use taxpayer dollars to acquire more. In the executive order that was, I guess, signed last night, Trump has directed some of his cabinet secretaries to try to find tax neutral ways to acquire more. But we'll have to see what that looks like. But right now, they're just really planning to hold on to what they already have.
Right. You mentioned that bewildering number of business interests that Trump and his family hold in crypto platforms and this industry. There are presumably concerns about conflict of interest, given this presidential boosting of the sector.
Oh, of course. There are concerns all over the place because clearly his own personal and familial financial interests are intertwined in whatever happens in Washington, D.C. And the more that the SEC gives the industry the ability to expand, to grow, to market to customers, the more that the industry gets legitimized through executive actions and legislation, there's going to have a direct and indirect effect on his finances. And it's leading to all sorts of important questions about conflicts of interest and how can he make sure that, and how can the American people be sure that whatever happens is in their own best interest and not his personal financial interest. Those are really important questions right now. And at this point, it's hard to know what's going to happen.
OK, that's very clear. Thanks for leading us through that. Stephen Ehrlich from Unchained. Thank you.
Thank you.